Stop making people think with your branding and marketing. It uses energy that their body doesn't want to use, which makes it harder for them to see the value in your product. Instead, you should be taking advantage of the two systems of thinking that our body uses. In this video, I'll be showing how our brains perceive our brands and why people buy competitors' products over yours, even if they're worse or more expensive. According to Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman, there are two systems that govern our behaviour and choices. Autopilot is for intuition and perception. It happens with little effort, and most of the time, we don't even know we're using this system. And you use it every day, to see if one object is further away than another, to orient to the source of a sound, to detect hostility from body language. It's the autopilot of our brain. Pilot is the second system that governs our attention and reflection. We use this system to focus. It's active instead of passive. You'd use it when you're writing an amazing video script, when you're exercising, and when watching videos. It's the pilot and where we think. The reason to understand these is so that you can position your brand and product in a way to capitalize on the autopilot system. Strong and recognizable brands are perceived by that system, which makes it easy for us to make purchases with them. We don't have to actively think when we go to our favorite coffee shop. We know what we want, we know what we like, it's an easy decision for us. But if we go somewhere else, somewhere new, we have to actively think about every decision in that shop, causing us to use more energy and making us spend less. But you can influence this. And here's how. The vibe makes up a big part of how your brand is perceived both physically and digitally. It's hard to pin down what a vibe is, and that's the point. It's the overall atmosphere your brand creates. This takes every part of your brand to build, from the colours used across everything your brand touches, to the style of typography used, composition of elements, and design. It also translates to more physical parts of your brand. What sound or smell does your brand have? A perfect example of this is the Netflix da-dum. You know that sound, and you know what it is. You don't have to think about it. Finally, the messaging and words you use affect the vibe. Words like no can have a negative effect on your vibe. Imagine from a child, we've been said no to in a negative way. Our autopilot brain picks up on these signals and has learnt that no is bad. Everything about and surrounding your brand needs to be considered carefully to build the vibe you want. By doing this, you're going to make it much easier for the brain to make that purchase decision, because you're eliminating the thought process of, do we feel this brand is good? When we see a product we like, want, or need, the pleasure part of our brain lights up. It's always ready to get that sweet dopamine hit. But then we see the price, and the pain part of our brain lights up. Now we're in a deadlock. Part of us wants that cool new thing. The other part does not want to spend money. As a brand and product, there's only one real way to get over this, and that's framing. You need to frame your product in such a way that the pleasure part of our brain exceeds the pain. This is how a purchase decision is made. There are so many ways to frame a brand, and it always boils down to the value. What value is your brand bringing that's worth this cost? The value you can add here influences the perception of the brand by that person, which in turn turns up or down their pleasure brain. Value can be that everyone else is using it. Hi Smile do an amazing job at this. You see the product everywhere. Value could be, weirdly enough, through price. It then becomes a brand that people aspire to. Think of any designer brand like Gucci. Your brand has to overcome the hurdle of perception at every turn. Framing it correctly can lower that hurdle significantly. Your brand isn't in some void in a person's head all of the time, no matter how good you are at branding, but there are always ways to invoke it into the mind of your customers. And that's situational or contextual cues. Imagine you want to get a new laptop. What brand are you thinking about right now? Is it Apple? Actually, let me know down in the comments. This is a very basic context cue that can be built into a brand. If you can find a specific niche for your brand and be the number one in it, or even own it completely, then whenever that context or situation comes up, you'll be the first the customer thinks about. This doesn't have to be your entire business model either. You could use some fancy advertising and content to link your brand to certain situations. KFC in Japan did this perfectly when it made it the number one place to eat at Christmas. There are also situational cues that happen in our daily lives. If you're an FMCG brand and you want to get your product into a supermarket, think about how your brand looks amongst its competitors. Is it easy to spot in your peripherals? Can you identify it if it's blurry? Building these moments that happen in situations are the perfect way to get into the autopilot mind of your customer. As a dynamic brand, you need to always be finding opportunities to help make your customers' lives better or easier. But you can't do that unless they want to. A lot of your customers' thinking is out of your control. They are making millions of decisions every day. We need to help them make the right decision to buy our stuff. And that starts with the goal of the customer. And there are 6 goals you need to know about. First is security, which is taking care of family. Second is enjoyment, which is about relaxation. Third is adventure, freedom and courage. 4 is autonomy, which is about success and power. 5 is excitement, which is about fun and curiosity. And 6 is discipline, about order and precision. So what goal does your brand align to? For example, deodorant would be security. It's keeping bad odours from ruining your day. Once you know the goal your brand aligns to, you can work out the signals that match this goal and build a solid brand strategy around that. Remember, you can be creative with your brand as long as the signals and goals match the customer's intuition. That's it for me today. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all the things, and we'll see you next time.